Welcome to the HR Morning Show. Super excited to be here. We are live at Unleash 2025 in Vegas, and we are in the People Insight by Higher Road booth. Super excited to have a former guest on my podcast, but we've got Matt Lavery in the house from UPS, runs sourcing. How long have you been at UPS for?
28 years.
28 years. Okay, we got to start there because you don't hear that a lot. So what's kept you at UPS? Like just the evolution of the job? Like what is it?
It's been a lot of things. One, it's the constant challenge. I think it says something that you come back to work every day to work on a new challenge.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier sometimes to leave and start over than to fail at something and just keep coming back and working that problem until you get it right.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky at UPS that I've been afforded times to fail because you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've had huge advancements in other areas. So every time at bat, you're not going to get a hit, and you're going to vary the hits that you do have if you throw enough things out there. And I think one of the things that I found at UPS, I've been given that opportunity to do those things. I mean, from the very early stages of my career when I was just starting, I pitched an idea because at that time, it took 22 pieces of paper to send into an employee service center in Marietta, Georgia, to get them inside our PeopleSoft system at that time. So
you had to send the information via paper, and then someone would process
someone's going to key it in and
Wow.
scan shit in. 22 pieces of paper.
Wow.
And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I looked around at the applicant tracking systems back then. That's like 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
None of them were built for purpose for high volume hourly.
Yeah.
So we actually built it ourselves.
Wow.
And we were going to do it just in the Chicago market where we were. And the corporate team said, hold on a minute. This might have implications for the whole organization. So let's pause and let's do it for the whole company. And from that point forward, I've been given a lot of opportunity, a lot of leeway to a lot of different things. We went from having 65 different background check providers to having one.
Yeah.
We had advertising budgets in every district that all got combined in the U.S. into one, so you can use the power to spend to do different things.
Yeah.
So, I find it interesting. I always look for something new, even though we're getting a lot of success or what we have today. My mind is, what's next?
Yeah.
What's going to be the environment a year or 2 years from now? And are we still going to be set up for success?
Yeah.
Because in this day of, I get a lot of questions. When's it going to slow down? When's it going to be normal again? I don't know if it's ever going to be quite normal again.
What's the time period that people are asking
Pre-COVID.
around like normal? Okay, pre-COVID. Okay.
So, since COVID, we've just been reacting and trying to plug gaps as best you can.
Yeah.
I think the days of buying a new piece of technology, not forgetting about it, but letting it run with little or no interference are over.
Yeah.
You're constantly going to be updating and looking for things to improve because the candidates are expecting it, the candidates want it, and we have to remain competitive in that space with candidates. So we have to keep alliterating ourselves into different pathways and being constructively dissatisfied to keep improving.
So walk us through the scope of your work. So how big is your team? And then talk to me about hires that you need to make and what that looks like.
My personal team is about 15 people.
Okay, you got 15.
And they sit within 7 time zones around the world. And it varies on their duties. Some people are an agile project team. When we have new projects, that's all they handle. Other people are the direct lines to business to understand the advertising needs, to communicate that to the people who are doing our employment brand and marketing. Then I have also a professional recruitment team in the UK and Germany. That's all they're doing is professional recruitment. So there's a lot of different pieces to it. Our TA team is a lot bigger than that. But overall, my other part of the job that I have is anything with technology, I'm vetting and I'm recommending to the organization for TA.
Yeah.
So that's part of why I'm here and looking at different things. That's why I'm also thinking about where's AI going to take us 2 or 3 years from now?
Yeah.
And what's it mean to the candidate experience? What's it mean for job boards? Or what's it mean for all those different steps? And are we set up for success when those things happen, or when I think those things will happen.
So when you're approaching a new technology, right? So at Unleash in Vegas, there's a ton of vendors. What are the sort of things that you're thinking about to be able to position yourself for 2 to 3 years in the future? Like, what are the attributes of a product that you look at?
One of the things I'm really thinking about now, today when you put a job up, you have an impulse coming out from your applicant tracking system. It gets pushed out to a number of different job boards, other sources.
Yeah.
Programmatic advertising, same thing. I consider that job boards. And then the stimulus comes in. And people today are doing more searches today, going to ChatGPT or Copilot, starting the search there. And then because it's still there, they're getting results really from SEO still, because it's going out to Google or whatever, and you say, what's the closest job to me? They're pulling the results off SEO and giving those to the candidate.
Yeah.
So if you're good in SEO, you're still going to be good now. But maybe a year or two, that's not going to be the case. Maybe instead of the impulse coming from the company to the job boards, maybe it's going right into the LLM.
Yeah.
And they're asking for my skill taxonomy. So they can maybe send me candidates straight from that doing searches on their tools into our product maybe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to start thinking about how this is going to evolve.
Yeah, and you got people searching on social media now, like
Absolutely.
TikTok's huge, right? Where people
100%. I mean, TikTok is the new Glassdoor, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, Glassdoor's, I don't know what it is anymore, but if anyone wants to learn about a company, they ask people on TikTok, and they're looking for reviews, they look for recommendations.
Yeah.
That's where they're all going.
What about in terms of one of the things that we talked about a year ago was with Fountain, which is the ATS that you're using. You made 1,000 changes or iterations in your process, and one of the things I've been thinking about for a lot of the listeners out there, what are the sorts of things that you look at when you change a part of the process, and then how quickly do you look for like success on whether that change worked, and like how do you kind of go about that? Because to me, 1,000 changes in a process, that's a lot, right? So how do you know if it's successful? What are those kind of changes you're making?
And those 1,000 range from something very small, by making a title change, to making a process change.
Yeah.
So, and it's everything in between. We look at the data. We look at where people are stopping, where people are falling out, and we're examining why that's happening there. So we're going through as a candidate, why is there friction here?
Yeah.
What's causing the friction, and try to take the friction away. So what we're doing right now is present day, I'm here, but I have like half my team working on where we have bottlenecks.
Yeah.
So we examine where every step that we have a bottleneck of candidates. And we're going through it, and we're coming up with solutions. Fountain's working with us, and we're going to come up with changes to it, because we still hired 150,000 people in 6 weeks last year. Did it, but...
How many years have you done that, by the way? That volume?
Over 20.
20 years.
But a lot more people, and we've scaled down the number of people dramatically since we went to Fountain.
Yeah.
And we're getting to job offers in 5-7 minutes, fully vetted. Since the last time I talked to you, we initiated I-9 and W-4 as part of Fountain, so they no longer leave the Fountain product to go do those elements. They're all part of it. It's all
one-step process
within the Fountain.
Wow.
Before it was a push over to Equifax and then comes back.
Yeah.
It was still a one-line, non-stop process.
Yeah, I think you said it was like 20 minutes last time.
25, yeah.
25 minutes,
But it's now all within the Fountain product, so there's less friction on the interfaces and things that could fail.
One of the things that's come up a lot in just talking to practitioners, fraudulent candidates have a lot more access to AI themselves.
Sure.
Right, with resumes. Are you running into that? Maybe not so much for the
not
high volume.
Not as much for the high volume hourly, but I go back 28 years that people no-showed jobs 28 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think the difference, and again, this is a difference between the hourly world and the professional world.
Yeah.
Because I still remember 28 years ago, if I had to hire 10 people at the building I was hiring at, I had a job offer 13 to make sure 10 showed up.
Yeah.
Okay? So it was commonplace.
Has that percentage stayed the
roughly,
same? Yeah.
Not too varied. But now that's leaked, that trend has leaked up the ladder. So people on professional jobs, someone you talk to for weeks at a time and made a job offer letter to, and they signed and sent back, then they don't show up for their first day of work. You're like, this isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now it's a catastrophe.
Yeah.
In the hourly space, it was
just normal.
Not normal. It's not great, but we want to improve it. But now that it's, because you have to think of it this way: 60 or 70% of jobs in the U.S. are frontline or hourly. But in our ATA space, most of the tools, most of the systems are designed around that 30 or 40%.
Yeah, the corporate roles.
So that's where all the action, that's where all the money goes, that's where all the solutions come. So people on the hourly side like me, we have to figure out who we can partner with and solve that hourly hire issue versus the professional.
One of the things that I know you're really big on is candidate experience. I mean, you've touched upon it. Because a lot of people pontificate on what they think a good candidate experience is. Obviously, you've got the data that backs it up. So, like, what is it for anyone who's out there that's running a team and is unsure of like what makes a good candidate experience? What's the feedback you're getting from hundreds of thousands of candidates?
I think you have to understand your audience, because what an audience looking for an entry-level package handling job at UPS, they're not looking. Their first thought isn't career in their head. It's a job. How much am I getting paid? How far is it from my house? Do they have public transportation? Basic things.
Company culture? No.
That's not even a thing, really, honestly.
I know.
As long as you're paying them enough, I think they're okay in many cases.
Yeah, they want the job.
They want a job.
Yeah.
So that audience is very different than the things you're going to get in a professional candidate.
Yeah.
Because a professional candidate, they're going to want to, who am I working for?
Career growth trajectory.
Those kind of things.
Yeah.
So the most common situation is they'll go through 8 rounds of interviews, and maybe the hiring person they're going to work for wasn't any one of those 8.
Yeah.
So they were talking to a higher level person in the department, and now you're like working for someone 3 levels down from that person. Well, I like that person.
Yeah.
I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
That kind of situation. So it's almost like a bait and switch that a lot of people feel. So I think you start with a good candidate experience, know what your audience is and what they want.
That's huge.
And then through NPS and other things, keep validating that you're right. And so they'll tell you when it's wrong. And then you have to react to it and change. But you have to keep doing surveys, keep getting more data, and have the data lead you to where you need to fix things.
What's been the biggest change that you've seen, the past 20 years in terms of what candidates expect, or are they pretty much looking for the same thing?
Well, I think so many things that were innovative and new 15, 10 years ago are table stakes now.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a mobile-friendly process that's Uber-friendly, like Apple iPhone out of the box friendly, it's not going to go well. If you have to have speed, no black holes, and you have to be transparent with the whole process to them. So a lot of people will say, here's our application process. All you did was collect their interest. And now when you're going to invite them back in, now here's our real application process. You got to go fill out this for 20 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they don't want to see that.
No.
And so really what you have to boil into is, think it from the candidate's perspective. When would you want to go do that if you were applying to a job? And then figure out what you have to do. For instance, even before we went to Fountain, we were making a quick hire process. We went from collecting over 150 data points for a baseline package handler to taking it down to 35. Because essentially the data point wasn't needed for compliance, to make a job offer, or to push into the HCM at time of hire. We stopped collecting it because it was just extra information.
Yeah.
It was nice, but it was just data you're collecting, and you weren't really doing anything with it, just wasting the candidate's time. Yeah. So they don't want their time wasted, but they want whatever time we do give us, they want to know it's valuable and what the next step is as fast as quick as possible.
How big is customizable options? Because I've thought about this a lot, right? You have kind of text-based applications, you got chat, you got mobile, like you mentioned. Now you're hearing a lot of these phone interviewers. It's customizing the experience.
They all have to be done with the phone.
Right.
They can't be done if it's they have to be all optimized for that.
And so do you think customizing that and giving people the option is something that's kind of the next step? People are going to expect that?
They can, and I think you can customize it by role. I don't know if you want to customize it by candidate. because then you're going to compare candidates and not give you the same information, which could cause the problems. But what you should do is customize it by role.
Yeah.
So what I do for one role does not necessarily need to be the pathway for the other role. So you have to figure out what that is for you. Maybe 70 or 80% of it's the same, but there's 20% of variance based on what you want that candidate to do and what information you need, or maybe even the process flow. Maybe this job, it's not entry level, maybe it's a junior level, but not a higher level.
Yeah.
So you have to put steps in your process to say no more than two rounds of interviews, those kind of things, because otherwise you get out of hand with stuff. And then you have recruiters and candidates. Sometimes the recruiters don't always know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because they think it's going one way. Okay, here's your candidate. Like, well, no, let's do another round of interviews. That always cops the stuff like that from you. I'm sure you hear it. I watched your posts on LinkedIn and all the horror stories that you post, and they're all true.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of come to the conclusion, because one of the things I hear a lot from smaller companies is a lot of times they're like, a lot of these things aren't scalable, right? But I think they are
can be
scalable,
they
and sometimes it's simplifying it down.
You have to have the courage and the discipline to scale it.
Yeah.
You can't let things become ad hoc. When it become ad hoc, then you're not running a process anymore. You have a free-for-all. So your organization needs to set up what the process is and then build your system around what that is. So a hiring manager can't go rogue and say, now we're going to have 8 rounds of interviews or 7 rounds, whatever the ridiculous number of things are. It's all.
I've heard of 8 or 9 right now.
I've heard it. I've heard it too. Not my company, but I've heard it. And I think if you build your system around the type of job, what it is, and the appropriate steps for it, I think the candidates relate to that and accept that.
Yeah.
It's when you get unreasonable, it's where it goes off the rails.
You talked a little bit about like these data points. So like for anyone who's maybe out there, maybe they're earlier in their career with talent, or maybe they just taken a leadership role. What's the story that you need to tell to your leadership, and like how do you build that story to get investment for tools and to make that process better?
One is you better have a really good parser of their CV or resume. So you're not asking them to key any of that stuff in.
Yeah.
And then everything else either should be validated off the resume or very limited if I don't need it, and collected at the right time. I should not be asking somebody at the application process their emergency contact or other information. That should be part of the onboarding process. So making sure that you're asking the right data points at the right time, in the right steps, and as few as possible for key entry.
Yeah.
And whatever you do collect, make sure it's absolutely needed.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to say, well, we've collected this forever. What do you do with it? Challenge. When we started doing some of these things, all these different pieces of paper that we were collecting, where are we going with this? Where does it go? And who uses it?
Yeah.
And if it went somewhere and no one ever looked at it, gone. Same with the data points. If no one's actually utilizing that for anything, but you're collecting it, you're just wasting the candidate's time.
What are the biggest data points that you use within your process? What's the most important?
It depends on the role.
Okay. Say for the hourly roles.
Hourly roles, it's really around location to the job, and they're where they live, and also 1 or 2 jobs past history. So you see some semblance of work record, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it, because we have a very low bar. Our job is a tough job. You have to want to do it. We try to scare people away. We have realistic job profiles and realistic videos that you see when you're applying. Like, I don't know if this is for me.
So I had a friend who he runs an Amazon logistic warehouse business, and he's done the exact same thing where he'll talk about working on weekends, working on holidays. Similar idea, and like how do you do that? And what would be your advice for other leaders out there that are trying to make these like kind of fluffy employer brands, trying to attract everyone? How do you weed those people out?
I think you still have that, but when you get down to the apply process, you got to be real.
Yeah.
You can't sell them, flowers and sunshine if it's tough.
Yeah.
Because if you got a tough job, you got to acknowledge that, and you have to say the benefits that you're getting out of it. It's a tough job, but here's what can come from it.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then you got to rethink your job a little bit, and maybe the compensation, the EVP of it, because you're going to have a hard time attracting people if you can't be real and honest with them up front.
So what's a question you would ask through process? How do you do that?
What do you mean?
What type of question would you ask to kind of vet somebody out?
The candidate you're talking about?
Through the process.
Well, we don't really ask questions at the entry level anymore. We basically watch a 3-minute video. Do you want to do this? We go through the essential job functions, any issues.
And that's like a day in the life video then?
The day in the life. It shows employees sweating. It shows employees doing the hard work. And employees talking about it too. But it also talks about the benefits they receive. It's a union-based company. So you can be, there's advancement opportunities, become a UPS driver and different things. So it's a real picture.
Yeah.
And someone can say to themselves, I can't see myself doing that, or I can't.
What way do you put that in the process then? Is that before the application?
It's right, almost the second or third thing you do when you come in.
And what's their view rate on that? Do you have analytics on that?
Yeah, it's over 90% view it, and then we have a fallout rate, but we expect to have a fallout rate there because.
At what point do they fall out? As soon as they see the sweat?
In some cases, but again, I want to be real with them, and I want to be transparent with them. That's what our level of transparency. Candidates want you to be transparent with them.
Yeah.
Not just in the pay rate, but what the work environment's going to be and what they can expect to do from day one forward.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
If you can't do that, then you're not really. You're kind of renting a person, not hiring them, because the minute their expectations aren't being met, they're looking.
Yeah.
You want again, even if it's a tough job, they may be looking. But at least they can't walk away and say, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I tried and I couldn't do it, but I knew going in what it was.
And then are these employees then that you've chosen, or did you have volunteers? How did you get people to make this content?
We was UPS employees.
And they volunteered?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, amazing, okay.
Yeah, we went around, we're going to shoot a video and content, and would you want to be in it? And most of the time, yeah, there are some people no.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be the face of it. They sign the release, and they want to be part of it. A lot of people that we run into at our company, we're a promotion from within company. 80% of all of our moves come from internal movement. If you want to become a driver at UPS and get our driving jobs at UPS, full compensation package is between $150,000 and $160,000 a year after being on the job for 4 years. They have they get a pension plan. They don't pay anything for their medical benefits. It's a union job. $45 an hour top rate, somewhere in that range. So there's a lot of pride in those folks.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of pride in them. I mean, they're the face of our company with every customer. If you Googled stories about local people's drivers that are retiring or did something in their community,
always UPS.
You see it. I can't go a month or even a week sometimes without seeing an article in some local area about a UPS driver being recognized in that kind of way.
Yeah.
They're embedded in every community around the country.
I love that. I love it. Well, Matt, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. What are you most excited about? What are you looking to get out of the rest of Unleash?
I want to talk about not where AI is today. Where do you see AI a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now? And how does your company evolve as that happens?
Yeah.
Because the one thing I believe, and companies and vendors aren't going to like this, is that the rapid change of pace, these long contracts that we sign with vendors are going to have to get shorter. The other thing that's going to have to
3 year
or 5 or whatever,
yeah.
because it may be irrelevant at that time or quickly outdated. The other piece is ramp up time. It can't be 6 months to a year for some of these things. It's got to be like days and weeks, because you're going to need to switch off other platforms.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to find out is, are the vendors and companies going to adapt at the same change of pace that we're getting from the AI technology coming in? Because especially as an enterprise customer, once I sign an agreement with somebody, I'm locked in for a period of time.
Yeah.
And I can't leave. I can't pay for 2 SaaS costs on the same solution. So, and I'm not. That's not different than any other company. So we're going to figure out, though, as AI keeps adapting, how are the vendors going to adapt to that? and how are their solutions going to be positioned to meet that change? And that's going to be an interesting conversation that's going to continue between practitioners and vendors over the next 1 to 3 years, because they're going to, if they're not thinking about that now, they should be.
Yeah.
Because as fast as AI is moving, they need to be moving as fast as that is.
I mean, it's crazy. And the other thing I think about too is a tool, if you're the only person that has it, is valuable. But once everyone has the same tools,
it becomes a commodity at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it's a race to the bottom on cost.
100%. All right, Matt. Well, where can people connect with you? What's the best place?
I'm on LinkedIn. Look for me there. Matt Lavery, UPS. You can find me.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll probably catch up here at another conference.
We'll see.
Always excited, and thanks for being with us.
Always good to talk to you.
All right, Matt.
Thanks,
Matt.